Good morning. My name is KARLA LIPFORD, and I am the West Tennessee Law Enforcement Liaison for the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. We would like to thank the law enforcement agencies and our local partners in attendance today. The Memphis Police Department, Shelby County Sheriff's Office, Tennessee Highway Patrol, Building Memphis, Ms. Sumi Montgomery, Tennessee Department of Transportation, Homeland Security, Don't Drive Drowsy Foundation, MAD, Bartlett, Collierville, Germantown, and Millington Police Departments, and other traffic safety advocates. We appreciate everyone for being here. Our partners will be available for interviews at the conclusion of this press event. We would also like to thank you, the media, for coming out this morning to help us get our message out, that enough is enough. Enough of the senseless, increasing number of traffic fatalities that are occurring on Shelby County roadways. These are not just numbers on a piece of paper. These are lives that are being lost. These are family members that would never get to see their loved one again. Too many people are losing their lives unnecessarily. Law enforcement across the county this weekend will be participating in a zero-tolerance Shelby County crackdown. Officers are targeting those drivers that violate Tennessee laws. But it's just not up to the law enforcement community. It's up to the citizens of Shelby County to obey the traffic laws, to do your part. We can't do it alone. We need that support for the community. We need people to stop speeding. We need people to stop driving aggressively. We need people to wear seatbelts. We need people to put their phones down. We need people to stop driving while impaired. At this time, I will introduce our first speaker, Director Buddy Lewis of the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
Thank you, KARLA, and thank you all for being here today. It's a great turnout to get an important message out to our community, and thank you to all of the law enforcement agencies represented here. We could not do our job without your help and without everyone's commitment to saving lives across Tennessee, and here today we're speaking about Shelby County. On behalf of Commissioner Jeff Long, I give greetings to you from the Commissioner's office in Nashville. That's where my office is, and I'm proud to be here and honored to be here this morning to discuss about issues about what's going on in Shelby County. The purpose of this event is to address the recent spike in Shelby County fatal traffic crashes. Today, our speakers will share local crash data and safe driving tips to help prevent future crashes, serious injuries, and fatalities. As KARLA alluded to, these are not just numbers. These are individually affected families that have lost loved ones, friends, and families are hurting because of this. And we just want to make certain that we get our message out to everyone across Tennessee and today Shelby County. Last month we were in East Tennessee doing the same thing. We had a great turnout there. And we just want to make certain that the citizens of this state, and particularly today in Shelby County, understand that we are committed to saving lives across our state and across Shelby County. You will hear from a member of our community who has experienced a loss of a loved one due to an unsafe driver. We're asking local citizens, community leaders, and everyone to assist us in protecting the Tennessee roadways by spreading awareness information about safe driving. All we ask is for people to slow down, adhere to all traffic signs and signals, watch for pedestrians, never drink and drive, pay attention, never text and drive, and buckle up every trip, every time. At this time, I would like to introduce to you our next speaker, Lieutenant William FUTRELL of the Tennessee Highway Patrol.
I'm Lieutenant William FUTRELL with the Tennessee Highway Patrol. I work here in the Memphis District. I'm assigned here to the Memphis District as well. I work out in this area quite a bit. And we're seeing a lot of bad things happening on the roadways nowadays. Excessive speeding, people texting and driving or even distracted on their phones, not wearing their seatbelt still, kids are unrestrained. We got pedestrians not crossing the areas that's designated for them to cross in. And it's leading up to this thing we call fatalities. It's a bad thing that's going on today, and it's very alarming. We're going to have to change it. People want to change their driving behaviors. We got these officers behind us. across this county that's turning it up a little bit. It's time for us to turn it up because we're getting the message out every year to try to change people's driving behaviors. So we're going to have to start doing something a little bit more intentful. So the commissioner alone, Colonel Perry, and my captain, Captain Jimmy Johnson, we are rededicating ourselves. We're committed to slowing down these traffic fatalities. A lot of things that we want to do is support MPD, Shelby County, by providing more manpower during their operations. Like KARLA said, they're doing operations weekend, so we're going to provide additional troopers to assist with that operation. Enough is enough. And our commitment's got to be strong. We have to reduce the traffic fatalities by improving people's chances of surviving, by telling people or enforcing the laws that's govern these highways. So we want to let the public know we want you to change your behavior. We don't want to write you a ticket. We want you to do the right thing. We go to bed at night. We cut our alarms on at home. We do everything we do at home to protect ourselves from bad things. So when you get in the car, you got to do the same thing. You got to put your seatbelts on. You got to put the phone down. You got to drive the speed limit. So transition that same behavior behind the wheel. That's all we ask that you do. So the Highway Patrol is definitely committed to saving lives. So thank y'all for being here today. If y'all have any questions, I'll be around after this press conference. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Assistant Chief Don Crow with the Memphis Police Department.
Thank you, Carla. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the 2,000 commissioned officers of the Memphis Police Department, we thank you for being here. We thank our law enforcement partners for being here. It's always great to be here with representatives from the state of Tennessee, Tennessee Highway Patrol, Shelby County Sheriff's Department, Bartlett, Germantown, Collierville, the campus police officers. So this shows everyone that we are in this together. We agree that this has to change. So for a couple of examples, so far this year in the city of Memphis, there have been 31 vehicle-related fatalities. 31. That's a 150% increase over 2020, the same time period. We have to do better. Last year, 2021, the Memphis Police Department charged 890 people with reckless driving and drag racing charges. That's way too many. So know that we are committed to doing this, but we expect better from our residents of Memphis and our residents of Shelby County. They know not to drive this way. They know courteous, safe, defensive driving each and every day. No one should be in such a hurry that they're causing others to lose their life. And remember this, in January we lost Officer Correll Jones to a traffic fatality. It touches all of us. And when that one person dies, that hurt spreads throughout the whole community. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Executive Director DEVENEY Perry of Building Memphis.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me on behalf of Building Memphis. We are a membership organization of community development corporations here in Memphis that represent several of our Memphis neighborhoods that are distressed communities. One of the things that our membership at Building Memphis has brought to our attention with regard to our neighborhoods is the issue of pedestrian safety. We've had the pleasure of working with the Tennessee Highway Safety Office to continue this work and also learn from some of the national work of transit safety, pedestrian safety, and some of the things that we've brought to our communities and the conversations that we're having with neighborhoods. They're noticing these things. They're asking for more speed bumps, and as we see more speed bumps on different streets in Memphis every day. They're asking for more crosswalks. These things are very important, but also those behavioral changes. So having community conversations about our behaviors with regards to these traffic fatalities so that we can decrease the amount of residents in Memphis that are just experiencing vehicular homicide. Those are some of our goals as community development corporations. And one of the things that kind of hits home is when one of our members is actually a victim of this type of situation, a very tragic situation. I'm here to introduce Sumi Montgomery. Sumi Montgomery came to Building Memphis years ago as a master's student with the University of Memphis. She's also a student of Rhodes College, a graduate of Rhodes College. And with her time at Building Memphis, she was very helpful for us in doing a lot of outreach to our community members. But who would have thought that years later, she will also be experiencing the very things that we advocate for in these neighborhoods. So at this time, I would like to introduce Sumi Montgomery as she comes and she gives you guys a very personal account of her life and her family's life, but also know that she's also an advocate doing the work to really support communities around the issues of pedestrian safety as well. Thank you.
Where do I even begin? The tragedy changed my family's lives in ways both predictable and unforeseen. In 2000, when I was 7 years old, my family moved here to Memphis because my dad, Steve Montgomery, became the senior pastor at Idlewild Presbyterian Church located on Union Avenue. A year and a half ago, my dad invited me and my partner over to watch Hamilton. He was a history buff and social justice advocate, and it's one of his favorites. After the musical, we left so my dad could go on his after-dinner bike ride. He had retired after 39 years in the ministry and began biking, not only for the exercise and freedom, but also to see friends around the neighborhood. Around 8:30 that night, my mom called and said that my dad had not returned home. I tried to reassure her, but as the sun was setting, I felt in the pit of my stomach something was wrong. After a short time, I told her to call the police. We heard that a man fitting my dad's description was admitted to the intensive care unit at Regional 1 Elvis Presley Trauma Center after being struck by a car while riding on his bike. From this point on, the night was like a nightmare I just couldn't wake up from. When we got to the hospital, they would only let one of us go inside due to COVID. Fortunately, the hospital chaplain escorted me and my mother to a secluded waiting room. He told us he took a class at Memphis Theological Seminary where my dad had been an adjunct faculty member, and the chaplain coincidentally lived across the street from me previously and had seen my dad dropping me off after our father-daughter date nights. He had been able to positively identify my dad, who didn't have his wallet on him at the time. Next, a medical professional came in and told us that my dad was unresponsive and on a ventilator. He had multiple broken bones, a shattered pelvis, internal bleeding, and clotting. The most severe injury was to his brain, and they wouldn't know more until he woke up. Scott Morris, founder of Church Health and a friend of my parents since their time at Yale Divinity School, gave us doctor's reports. Because of my mom's fragile health, most of the family responsibility fell on my shoulders, but I didn't mind. It gave me a purpose. After 2 days, we began to grasp the reality of the situation. The brain swelling had not gone down, and even if it did, my dad would live his life as a quadriplegic. The doctors called it locked-in syndrome, which is exactly how it sounds. The mind is trapped in a body that can't move, and we weren't even sure how much of his mind was left. My dad thankfully had a living will, which said that if he was unable to live without life support machines, he wanted doctors to pull the plug. Dr. Morris met with me, my mother, and brother, and we honored my father's wishes. On July 31st, 2020, 3 days after the crash, we went to the hospital. Due to the pandemic, only immediate family was allowed inside to visit, so I called my 2 uncles, also Presbyterian ministers, and aunt to say goodbye. It's hard to remember much during this time of trauma, but our Presbyterian musically inclined family sang the doxology, which is a song of hymn and praise used to end a church service. As the days passed, we began to paint a picture of what happened to my dad. He was wearing a helmet and riding north in the bike lane on Perkins when he was hit. The driver told police that he was traveling the same direction when my dad started to turn left as if he was trying to go west on Sequoia Road. The driver was not cited or arrested. The car that hit my dad was equipped with large horsepower and designed with poor visibility. The driver, along with another driver in a truck, stopped to help. The truck driver was a retired Navy medic who happened to keep my dad awake while nearby residents brought out blankets. The crash occurred about 7:30 p.m. on July 28, 2020, about 1.5 miles from my parents' home. My dad would have turned 69 in August. With the help of my church, I was initially able to take care of my mom. She's dairy-free, gluten-free, and soy-free, and my dad was her rock, her cook, her everything. I couldn't believe the amount of effort he had put into making all of her meals and her care. After more than a year, my mom and I are still trying to work out a sustainable balance where she gets the care I need and I can do what I need to do. I'm reminded of how many people my father affected when a random stranger hears my name and speaks about my dad's social justice work or the positive influence he had on Memphis. I'm filled with absolute joy that so many people cared for him. When I moved to a new place recently, I suddenly realized my dad wasn't there to help me like he did in 2019 when I was trying to move out of a house all by myself, and after 3 days, I stood in my living room and cried. Then my dad walked in with a coffee and a hug and told me to give myself some grace. It's just the kind of kind, wise, and loving father he was. Sharing this story with a community that is working to advance pedestrian safety in our city not only carries on my dad's legacy, but it brings us closer to preventing this from happening to anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Building Memphis and Ms. Montgomery, for being able to share your tragic story with us about your dad. This is what I'm saying when I say it's not just a number, that statistics that we're giving you in numbers. These are people's lives. And like Chief Crow said, one fatality affects so many people in our community. I would like to thank, on behalf of the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, we would like to once again thank our law enforcement and safety partners that came out today as we work together to decrease the number of traffic fatalities and crashes on Shelby County roadways. Thank you again to the media for getting our message out today to the citizens of Shelby County. Enough is enough. Enough of the reckless, aggressive driving, enough with the speeding, enough with people not wearing their seatbelts, enough with people using their cell phones, texting, calling, enough of the impaired driving, not just alcohol, but drugs also. Enough is enough. We're here to save lives. We're tired of going to people's family and telling them that your loved one was lost in a traffic crash. Enough is enough. The life that you saved may be your own. Now, this concludes our press conference, but our speakers and our law enforcement agencies, they're available to do private interviews, and if anyone have any questions.